So this morning I want to talk about the time of the Gentiles' visitation. What do you mean the time of the Gentiles' visitation? And what is that supposed to mean? And is there such thing as a time of Gentiles' visitation? I want to first go to Peter. Let's see. Second Peter 2. In verse 12. So this is what I'm pointing out here is this is New Testament doctrine. All right. Now, Peter, he was apostle to the Gentiles. He was apostle to the Israelites. He was not an apostle to the Gentiles. So in verse 12, it says, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles. So he's telling the Israelites that were in the church in those days that they needed to have their words honest among the Gentiles, that whereas because they speak against you as evildoers, they call you dirty Jew. Oh, let me first of all get this screen share up. I'll start again. So I think we'll start in the previous verse. Now, right here in verse 6, wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believes on him shall not be confounded. Remember, Peter was speaking to the Jews. Unto you, therefore, which believe, he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, talking about the Pharisees, on him shall not be confounded. Unto you, therefore, which believe, he is okay, I just said that. And a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at that word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and Israel will indeed become a royal priesthood in the last generation, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you will show forth the praises of him who has called you out of darkness into this marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but now a people of Jehovah, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers. Yes, the Gentiles did, and they still constantly speak of the Jews as evildoers, and Peter was making sure that those Jews who were among the congregation understood it was necessary for them to be honest. So these Gentiles who spoke of them, who slandered them in this way, would be confounded. They may by your good works which they behold, instead of slandering you, will glorify Jehovah in the day of visitation. Visitation? Visitation. What does that mean? Well, let's go to one of the places where it talks about the day of visitation. In Jeremiah 48, in this particular instance, it was a day of visitation upon Moab. Verse 44, he that flees from the fear shall fall into the pit, and he that gets up out of the pit shall be taken in the snare. Remember that word snare. For I will bring upon it, even upon Moab, the year of their visitation, saith Jehovah. So as you see, the year of visitation is a year of inspection, of judgment. A very bad time for the unrighteous. Now I want to, before I go to the next chapter, next scripture, I want to let's, for example, look at Hosea 9 and verse 7. The days of visitation are come, and the days of recompense are come. Now, this right here, this is talking about against Israel, right? Jeremiah 11 verse 23, there shall be no remnant of them, for I will bring evil upon men of Anathoth, even in the year of their visitation. That's time of calamity. Isaiah 10 verse 3, what will you do in the day of visitation, in the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will you flee for help? Jeremiah 10 verse 15, they are vanity, the works of errors. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. Jeremiah 50:27, this is talking about Babylon. Woe unto them, for their day has come, the time of their visitation. Woe to them for the anyway, it's a repeat here. So the time of visitation is a time of terrible trouble. Now, this happened to Jerusalem. Luke 21 and starting in verse 20. What, when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. When did that happen? It happened in the, what is it, springtime of 67 CE. Know that its desolation thereof is close. When that happens, let those that are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let them that are in the countryside not come back. Why? For it is the days of vengeance. Now I missed something here. I got to go find it. You knew not the time of your visitation. Hold on. Right here, Luke 19:44. Sorry about this, folks. I have to do this. Verse 41, and when he came near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, if you had known. Now, folks, this is where I'm getting at. If you had known. Is there anybody telling you this? I am. I've been for the last couple of years. Been talking about how since Jerusalem received punishment and calamity, the Gentiles must also. So in Daniel 9, Daniel was reminding Jehovah, our Father in heaven, that the 70 years had been complete. after the first destruction of Jerusalem, and that it was time to bring back the people to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem. Gabriel came and told him about the 77s. So there would be another destruction. Anyway, so let's look back here. Saying, if you had known, even you, at least in this your day. What do you mean, your day? The things which belong unto your peace. What is that supposed to mean? But now they are hidden from your eyes. For the days that come upon you, that your enemies shall cast a trench about you, and compass you about, and keep you, or hem you in, or besiege you on every side, and shall lay you even to the ground, and your children within you, and you shall not leave in you one stone upon another, because you knew not the time of your visitation. Now we can go back to Luke 21. Verse 22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all the things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them which are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Woe to who? These, in this particular instance, were the Jews in Jerusalem. There shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. Why? Because they did not know the time of their visitation. They shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all the nations among the Gentiles, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles until what? The time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. In other words, finished, ended. Now, if you want to, it probably would be a good idea to look in several different translations, like, for instance, New Living Translations. Actually, it says they will be killed by the sword or sent away as captives into all the nations of the world, and Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles comes to an end. Right? So you have Contemporary English Version saying the exact same thing. Right here, Jerusalem will be overrun by foreign nations until their time comes to an end. Don't you see, folks? This is New Testament doctrine. The Gentiles' time is coming to an end. Now, we can sit here and do calculations like I've proven in Daniel 9. And or. Yeah, I said and or. We can also use simple methods to prove that the time of the Gentiles, that visitation, is almost here. How would I do that? Well, let's first go to Daniel 12. Is it Daniel 12? Verse 1, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands up for the children of your people, which is Israel. There shall be a time of trouble, such as there never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And your people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found in the book. He's talking about Israel. Now, Let's examine this particular phrase here. At that time shall Michael stand up. Now, people assume that that's exactly when Messiah comes. Well, let's see if I can. So angels on what is that called? Man, it's slipping my mind. Golan Heights. Angels on the Golan Heights. Sorry about my spelling, folks. Take a look at this. Now, what I'm going to do is play a little bit of this video right here.
Syrian survivors.
Actually, you can see the text. I will stop the text when, well, does it keep coming? Okay, maybe not.
Because only a third of the soldiers were in their position. They did break the front line and capture more than half of the Golan. And suddenly they stopped. Suddenly. No reason. Because we did not have enough soldiers to stop them. Later, when we reorganized the forces and we had the initiative in our hand and we captured some Syrian officers, we asked them, why did you stop? So the answer was, we saw a line of angels standing and stopping us. We have written that.
Okay, so there should be a better video or something like this on here. I will try again. All right. I can't spell for nothing. Oh, that's right. It was white angels on the Golan. Okay, so you can go and Google this yourself. As I remember when I was, this was in the Yom Kippur War. Here we go. This might be, I don't know if this is it or not. They don't have it on this particular article either, I don't think. But what had happened was there was only a few people guarding on Yom Kippur in 73. Only a few people guarding the Golan Heights. And a whole, I guess, a division of tanks from Syria came up and were going to storm the Golan Heights. And they claimed that, well, that they stopped. And the Israeli soldiers wondered why they stopped. Well, the Syrian prisoners said that that there was a line of white angels that appeared on the Israeli side of the Golan Heights, and they claimed that a large hand had came up in front of them and told them to stop. And he said, 'You would have stopped too.' So anyway, What is my point? My point is this. At that time, shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of your people. Now, this is a marker. This is a marker, folks, of what is to come next. A time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation even to that time, and at that time your people shall be delivered. Now, here's what I'm getting at. In 1948, well, yes, in 1948, you started seeing the tide turn towards Israel. Clearly, in the 1930s and early 1940s, nobody was helping the Jews. Nobody. Nobody. Not even the angels in heaven. Not even our Father in heaven. Jehovah is his name. But when Israel was declared a state, the tide started shifting in Israel's favor. And you can look through the miracles, and one of them in 1973 was the angels standing in northern Israel on the Golan Heights, stopping the Syrian tanks from coming through. So you can safely say that Michael stood up. Michael, the great prince, which stands for the children of your peoples, this happened. It is documented. The Syrians themselves admitted this. The Gentiles admitted this, folks. And when this is confessed and admitted by the Syrians, you know that the time of the Gentiles' visitation is coming. Or, as it is written, their time is coming to an end. The Gentiles should know the time of their visitation with this very first verse in Daniel 12. Now, when we read in Jeremiah 48 concerning Moab, how they are going to be, this is the time of their visitation. Now, if I can find it again, it says they're caught in a trap. See right here. He that flees from the fear shall fall into the trap, or fall into the pit, and he that gets up out of it shall be taken in the snare. For I will bring upon it, even upon Moab, the year of their visitation. So, that word snare. Let me show you something. And as we saw in Luke 21 and verse 34, it came as a snare upon Israel, upon Jerusalem. They shall fall by the edge of the sword and be carried, let's see. Please bear with me, folks. Luke Luke 21, verse 35. Oh, yeah. Oh, so after the destruction of Jerusalem, and after this, the time of the Gentiles comes to an end, then what? The sign of the return of the Son of Man. Now he says right here, take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting. Now, surfeiting is drunkenness that leads to vomiting. It's amazing. Are you serious? Would he have to tell that to his apostles? Really? You know who he's talking to. He's talking to the last generation of Gentiles and Jews. Lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this life or this world, so that day come upon you unawares. What day? The day of visitation. For as a snare it shall come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. This is not talking about Jerusalem anymore. No. The whole earth. For as a snare it shall come upon them, all of them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch you therefore and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. Okay, so Paul talked about this. Let's see, as a woman in travail. See. Oh, it's mentioned many more times than I thought. Okay, 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3. We talked about this. This is the day of Jehovah's wrath. But in the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of Jehovah's wrath so comes as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety. In other words, it is a time that appears to be normal times. Just like in the days of Noah, as it is written. People are marrying and giving in marriage, and they did not know, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Peace and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them, just like a travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Okay? What is he talking about? Talking about the whole world. This is not talking about Jerusalem anymore. That Jerusalem's time of destruction had ended, and the time of her rising is coming. And that means the time of the Gentiles comes to an end, which means it is a time of the Gentiles of visitation. And Paul backs this up in Romans 1 and verse 16. Notice he's talking to the Romans. Now, the Romans are Hellenized. So when you read unto the Jew first and to the Greek, right here he says, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Messiah, not Christos or Christ, for it is the power of Jehovah, not God, unto salvation to everyone that believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. What does that word mean? Greek. Let's go to Strong's Concordance. Helene. This is the entire Western civilization. Lane. Anyone who followed the Greek culture and especially spoke Greek. A typical name for a Gentile. This is Western civilization, folks. Whether it be native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. In a wider sense, the name embraces all nations that are not Jews. I hope you understand what this means. Romans 2. Therefore, you are excusable, O man, whosoever does that judges. What have the Hellenes, the nations, Western civilization, done to the Jews? Since before Constantine, they judged. Rape, pillage, murder. Rape, pillage, murder. They did it to the Jews, but not only did they do it to the Jews, they did it to others. You condemn yourself. You think, O man, to judge which do such things and do the same, that you shall not escape the judgment of Jehovah, or despise you the riches of his goodness and forbearance and forgiveness, not knowing that the goodness of Jehovah leads you to repentance. But because of the hardness and impotent heart that you have treasured up unto yourself wrath against the day of wrath, or the day of visitation, folks. And revelation by the righteous judgment of Jehovah, who will render to every man according to his deeds. To them that are by patient in continuance and well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality, eternal life, but unto them that are contentious and refuse to obey the truth, even when it's presented before you freely, refuse to believe the truth. Now, one of those truths, there are several truths. One of them is the time of Israel's redemption is coming. And another one is the time of visitation upon the Gentiles. That's an ultimate truth. And Paul backs it up in the very next few verses. But if they instead obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath. In other words, killing people. Wrath, continual wrath. You see, this was happening in Europe for millennia. And it never ceased, never stopped. So, tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that does evil, of the Jew first, and it did happen to Jerusalem. Just read about it. And also to the Gentile. So, Paul makes it very plain this doesn't happen at the same time. The Jew first and the Gentile second, or this particular word, Gentile. Let's go once again to Strong's Concordance. Hellene, Western civilization. The nations, the educated nations. Backed up by Joel 3. And it begins with this, of course. with the destruction of Tyre, Zidon, and the Palestinians. Why? Because you have taken my gold and silver and carried into your temples my goodly things, and the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem you have sold to the who? The Greeks. So payback must happen, and it begins first with Tyre and Zidon and the Palestinians. And as I have said last week, what is today? Maybe it was earlier this week, that I do not believe that the current Israeli government is willing or would dare do the things that are written in Joel 3, which is the reason why I believe that Messiah is coming at the final Lebanon-Gaza war. And he will deport, sell into slavery. Yes, oh my goodness, I'm not supposed to say such things on YouTube. He's going to do what no current Israeli government would dare do. Order the expulsion of the Lebanese, Gaza, and the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria out of the country and sell them as slaves into the depths of Africa. Or in Yemen, who knows, it's somewhere around that general area, because it's written right here. I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah, and they will sell them to the Sabians, to a people afar off, because Jehovah has spoken it. This event here is going to trigger the next event. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men and let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all you heathen, all of them, and gather yourselves round about there. Then cause your mighty ones to come down too, O Job. Oh, we talking about Michael and his angels. Guess what? They've already showed up. They're already ready. They showed up in the Golan Heights in 1973 on the day of judgment. Yes, Yom Kippur, the day of judgment. They were standing on the Golan Heights, guarding the border of Israel. Gentiles, that was your sign. That was your sign. You're looking for a sign? That was your sign. It wasn't the Israelis that saw it. No. It was the Syrians that saw it. The Gentiles saw that sign. That sign's for you, Gentiles. The time of your visitation is coming. The time of your visitation is coming. Actually, your visitation is coming. The sign already came. So this particular situation here down here, multitudes and multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Jehovah is near in the valley of decision. And the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And Jehovah will roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and heaven and earth shall shake. But Jehovah will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of what? The Israel. What I'm trying to tell you folks is the time of the visitation of the Gentiles It's coming. We got the sign. We got some moth flying around. I got that thing. But you have to understand, folks, that when you read down in verse 19, Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. Why? Because of the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. Folks, I've talked about this before. You have to think about this. Anywhere, any location where innocent Jewish blood was shed in their land is going to be made a desolate wilderness. Now, for a while, I have let me go back to my face talking here. For a while, I have talked about all these nations that have the blood of Jews shed in their land. And, you know, there has been a little speculation. Well, I mean, the United States, well, maybe not so much. But I have some bad news for everyone. I hope I can find this. Give me a minute. Oops. I sent myself an email so that I would not lose this. It's concerning abortions. As you notice, there had been there's been some controversy concerning abortions. Now, I'll go back to screen share, I guess. I want to show you this article. Now, this, I just pulled it from the Antiochian Orthodox Christian Archdiocese of North America, and they've got their information. You can scroll down and look at this particular article, and they've got it from all these different links. And so rather than me going and try to look in these different links for the actual article, I would just go here. Abortions by race or religion. All right. Okay. Now, some people are probably going to get angry because of my approach concerning this issue. That's not my problem. That is yours. Okay. Who's having abortions by religion? Women identifying themselves as Protestants obtain 37.4% of all abortions in the U.S. Catholic women account for 31.3%. Jewish women account for 1.3%. Okay. That's not a whole lot, is it? Or is it? Well, I did the math. Because 1.3% of 1.37 million just in 1996 alone. Let's see here. What is that? 1.3% of 1.37 million. Well, over the past 40 years, I calculated it to be, now let's see if I can do this in my head. So 10% of 1.3 million would be 100,000. 100,000, let's say 137,000. Okay, that would be 10%. So 1% would be then 10,370 per year. 10,370 per year Jewish. All right? If I can find a calculator here. 10,000. Actually, that's 1,370. Since Roe versus Wade, it's been about, we'll just round it off to 40 years. Let's do that. All right, it's been longer than that, but we'll round it off times 40. It's 54,800 Jewish babies. Now you will say, oh, wait a minute, Henry, you can't blame that on the United States of America. Those Jewish women aborted their own babies. Why women have abortions? 1% of all abortions occur because of rape or incest. That's only 1%. 6% of abortions occur because of potential health problems regarding either the mother or child. And 93% of all abortions occur for social reasons. In other words, folks, since the U.S. government has made it legal and has in fact encouraged it, making it seem okay, the U.S. government is culpable, is partially to blame for this. And in the laws of the United States, murder even somebody who is an accessory to murder is considered a murderer. So you can sit there and say the mother murdered her child. And if you do, the co-perpetrator, the one who participated, is also equally culpable in United States law. For example, two people commit an armed robbery, say at a convenience store. Somebody gets killed in that robbery, but only one of the robbers have a gun. What is the law in the United States? The law in the United States is that both will be charged and convicted of murder. Therefore, in each of these cases, the United States is guilty based according to United States law. According to the United States law, now I've lost my calculator. Let's see if it's still here. Nope, I lost it. Okay, that's fine. So according to United States law, the 90-some thousand, I believe it was, innocent Jewish babies who were killed in the United States, they are innocent blood that's shed in this land. Let me show you something here, folks. Revelation 18, verse 24. As you can clearly see, this is Babylon. Now, we just read in several scriptures that this time of visitation is going to come all over the whole world. So the whole world is Babylon, not just that one city. Now I lost my place. I have to go back and find it. That would be in verse 24. Verse 24. Yeah, right here is the last verse. And in her was found the blood of the prophets, because the two witnesses are going to be killed by these people. So they're going to be guilty of the blood of all the prophets then, not just those two. And of the Jews. Saints are the Jews. The saints mean holy. Kodesh, that's the Jews. And of all of them that were slain upon the earth. Now, wait a minute. So, Western civilization is going to be found guilty of all the blood that's both Jew and Gentile. Anybody who was innocently murdered, that blood is coming upon the blood was found in all of these lands. And that does not exclude the United States of America, folks. I'm sorry to tell you. Because of the blood that was shed, the blood of the prophets and the blood of the Jews that were shed in these lands, the United States is no exception. Around, what was it, 90-some thousand. I think that's what the amount was. My calculator went. It was in the tens of thousands of innocent Jewish babies were killed because the United States government said it was okay, made it cool. Was an equal participant in the murder of innocent Jewish babies. Because of that, if the land has the blood of the Jews in it, it will also have the blood of the prophets and all those that are slain upon the earth, which means United States, Great Britain, all of Western Europe, all of Eastern Europe, all of Russia. In fact, around the whole world. We just read the whole world. We just read it. Let's see. I don't know if I can find it again. Right. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare it shall come upon all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Yes. There is no nation under the sun there won't be guilt blood found in it. Unfortunately, folks. But the day of salvation for Jerusalem, for Israel, is coming. When this time comes. And it will be in Jerusalem. It will be in Zion, just like Paul said in Romans 11. Verse 25 through 27 through 28, etc. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until what? Until the time of the Gentiles come to the full or come to an end. As we just read in Luke, I believe it was Luke 21. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written. So the time of the Gentiles coming to an end coincides with the salvation of all Israel. There shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob, because this is my covenant unto them when I shall take away their sins. What covenant is that? The covenant that is written in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 to 34, and the covenant that is written in Hebrews 8, verses 8 through 12. So he's telling the Romans concerning the gospel, in that current day, they are enemies for your sakes, but concerning the election, they are the elect. They are the elect. They are the beloved for the Father's sakes. And yet, the Gentiles still claim that Israel is rejected and that they are the elect, when very clearly you can see with both of your eyes concerning the election, Israel are the beloved for the patriarch's sake, because the gifts and the calling of Jehovah cannot be changed, or without repentance means cannot be changed. So when you see this written right here concerning the election, the Israel, they are the beloved for the Father's sakes, then you have to read this. Matthew 24, verse 31. Let's see here. Why can't I find what happened to it? King James, where'd you go? There it is. 31. We just found out, using New Testament now, I used to go to Isaiah 45, but I can prove it through Romans 11 that Israel is Jehovah's elect. That can never be changed. Cannot be changed. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. What tribulation? When the time of the Gentiles comes to an end and Israel rises up. The time that Michael stands up for his people, and we saw that sign. We saw the sign of Michael standing up for his people in the Golan Heights on the Yom Kippur War. It was on the Day of Judgment. Yom Kippur. That's what Yom Kippur is. The Day of Judgment. It was a sign that the time of the visitation upon the Gentiles, the time of their judgment is coming. That was the sign. And the sign showed up in the Golan Heights in northern Israel, which means that is the location of which the invasion is going to occur. The Gog-Magog war. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the cloud, a singular, of heaven, the sky, the cloud of the sky, with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect, as described by Paul, as Israel. All Israel. From the four winds, from one end of the sky unto the other. I'm telling you, folks, you Gentiles, you do not know the time of your visitation. And now you're blinded. And what happened to Israel, what happened to Jews in Jerusalem, is going to happen to you. Let's see. Let me try again. It's Luke 21. Yep. Right. I think it is. Nope. It's Luke 19. That's where it is. All right. I think it is. Yes, right here. The time of the Jews' visitation came first. The time of the Hellenes, the Gentiles' visitation, comes second. Paul said so. And it was come near. When he had come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, if you had known, and it's going to fall upon the entirety of Rome. If you had known, even you, at least in this day, the things which belong unto your peace. If only Rome had known. If only the Gentiles now have known. The shoe's on the other foot now, folks. How do I know this? Because the Gentiles testified that they saw angels, Michael's angels, guarding the Golan heights on the Day of Atonement, the Day of Judgment, 1973. That was a sign. But now they are hid from your eyes. Why? Because they did not see the sign. They did not pay attention to it. They did not consider it. Just as the Jews in Jerusalem in the old days of old did not consider the sign that was in front of them. And in fact, the Pentagon admitted, the U.S. military Pentagon admitted what happened both in the 6-Day War and in the Yom Kippur War was a miracle. That was a sign that Jehovah has come back to Israel and that the time of the Gentiles will come to an end. So, folks, just like Jerusalem was laid to the ground and all the children within them, not one stone was left on top of another because they knew not the time of their visitation, so shall it be to Christian Europe. Yes, I'm going to say that, Christian Europe, and quite frankly, Christian the United States, because they knew not the time of their visitation. Yes, I've said this many, many times in this video, and it's probably getting boring and tiresome, but I'm telling you, folks, it should cause weeping. And the fact that it is boring and tiresome to people is proof enough. That their eyes, what is it? But now they are hid from your eyes. It's a shame. And quite frankly, folks, I just read about the angels on the Golan Heights just yesterday, which is why I'm talking about it today. So the question is, since I pointed this out to you, are you going to consider it? Or is it going to be hid from your eyes too? Well, I guess we shall see.